What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and unlucky today. I mean, just what can you do when you're facing the New York Ref Bulls? Play on words. Oh my god. I didn't even, the thing is, I heard Mark Geiger was on VAR, and I'm just like, ah, crap, that idiot again? Like, really? We got to deal with him on VAR? Well, at least that's fine. You know, we shouldn't have to worry about it that much. And then, after the game is over, after all of that bull crap, I find out Chris Penso was the center referee. I'm like, I know that name. I complained about him last year. What game was that? Went back through my videos, watching a few of them. Sporting KC. I watched that review. If you want to go back and watch it, it's actually kind of hysterical what I'm saying. The video quality is a little bit poor because I was still using my laptop at the time. But I'm watching it, and I'm talking about how, Sporting KC pulled out all the stops. They got Chris Penso, man of the match performance from him. And I'm talking about how we were the better team, but then he gives away a crap PK where the guy just sort of flops to the ground to equalize and got Sporting KC the point. And I'm just like, oh my god. This is like that thing where, oh, look, the Simpsons predicted it. I predicted it last year. I was talking about it. It happened again tonight. It's almost kind of funny, mainly because I have to laugh about it now, because if I get any more angry, I might actually have a heart attack. And you'll probably, my voice right now is kind of gone because of how much I booed and screamed at the referees. But yeah, same exact situation. Guy flops to the ground, gets a crap PK out of nothing, and Chris Penso screws us over again. This year, that did happen, obviously. We saw it. Wright-Phillips throws himself to the ground. But it's like he wanted to one-up himself. So he didn't just call a crap PK against us. He also took away one of our goals wrongly, which Mark Geiger helped with that because he did it last time he was refereeing for us. And then on top of that, Penso sends off Florentowicz for a nothing challenge. He's going to kick the ball, the guy pokes it away, he accidentally gets the guy instead, and he actually sends him off for it. Are you kidding me? And then, thankfully he at least looks at the VAR this time and is like, oh, okay, I guess I can take it back. But you still get a yellow for it because, I'm still right that it was a bad foul. Yellow cards are supposed to be warnings for aggressive play, bad challenges, or dangerous challenges. That was nothing of the sort. His studs were not raised. He was kicking at the ball. The guy pokes the ball away, and his foot on the follow-through catches the guy. How is that even a card? And then, while we're on the subject of the bad calls, let's talk about those first two mistakes in the first half, because that's not a foul for Martinez. There's nothing. This is the defender throwing himself in front of the player and then going to ground because he thinks maybe I can get a call out of this, because he knows that's the only way he's going to stop Martinez right now, is putting himself in the way and falling over. And there's nothing there. There's no push out for Martinez. His hands weren't really out like this. If anything, if his hands were out, it was to steady himself because the guy just threw himself in front of him. Doesn't make a play on the ball. Swings and misses and then falls over. And the referee lets it go. He lets it go. Good call. Honestly, he put the whistle in his mouth, and for a second, me and my dad both thought, oh no, he's not really going to call that, is he? And then lets it go. Goal. We're like, okay, awesome. And then that moron Mark Geiger's like, oh no, you need to look at that again. You need to see that because clearly you made the wrong decision. We need to make sure Atlanta doesn't score another one. We need to make sure they don't get another win here. We need to make sure that they lose again. So he goes back and looks at it and says, you know what? You're right. Let's screw him over. And takes it away. Obviously, I didn't hear the conversation, but I just assumed that's how it went. Crap call. And then the penalty was stupid. Just absolutely ridiculous. We're on the other side of the field, and I could tell that he went over too easily. And then we watched the replay, and watch Wright-Phillips just throw himself to the ground, and then watch as the referee says, oh, this motion, this is what was going on. There was never two hands laid on him. If anything, Robinson had his arm around him a little bit, but that's not even enough contact. He just throws himself to the ground, and you're telling me you saw this motion? That is a clear and obvious mistake. VAR? not around. There's no VAR there. No. Penalty, let them have the penalty, let them score, let them equalize, have all the momentum going into the second half. It's ridiculous. And here's the thing. I'm not gonna make this a big excuse and say, oh, the referees, that's the reason we lost. They had a big part of it, to be sure. And I am going to take the stance of we still need to make sure mentally that we don't shut off, but it is very difficult. It's already difficult when a decision goes against you, like a goal being called back, or a bad penalty being given, or one of your players sent off unjustly. It takes some mental strength to make sure you don't turn off after that. But to have 3 instances like that happen, 2 of them right before halftime, and then you come out and then one immediately happens after that, mentally that's tough. And we already have kind of a mentally weak side, like Perez, Barco, Garza's another one, Martinez. They all are kind of head cases when things start going against us. You put 3 situations like that, even some of the strongest players are getting a little bit frustrated. Because that is embarrassing. And when you have VAR in place that's supposed to stop stuff like that from happening, and instead it's actually causing incidents like that to happen, that's when you know VAR is not being used properly. Part of it is down to the refereeing, but the other part of it is that it's turned into an opinion-based thing, and it shouldn't be. Last Wednesday, the Sporting KC game, when they called Martinez offside, I agreed with the call. That is the proper use of VAR because it happens so quick, comes off the defender. The AR misses it. Pretty much exactly how you'd expect him to. I mean, it's hard to call that. When somebody has a shot or tries to pass it and it ends up going to somebody that you weren't looking at, you're probably going to miss it. But the VAR catches it, calls them offsides. It's a good use of VAR, in my opinion. This game was the improper use of VAR, and it's why people hate VAR, because of games like this, where play goes on, the referee doesn't call the foul, VAR comes back opinion-based and says, I think that's a foul. That's not right. Because it shouldn't be based on opinion. VAR should not be judging the referee's opinion. It should be looking at it and saying, okay, you clearly missed something. When the referee is doing this motion on Robinson, that shows he clearly missed the foul. He didn't see it properly. That's when you say, okay, well, you need to look at it again. But no, they just decided, you know what? No, we're going to make sure Atlanta can't get through this. We're going to make sure that they probably, obviously I'm going overboard with that part, but in all reality, I mean, not biased at all, not beyond my frustration, this is not the proper use of VAR. And that's frustrating. And the fact that it caused my team to lose the momentum that we had is even more frustrating. It makes me feel like we just got completely screwed over by this. So now that I've spent all of that time bitching about the referees, obviously if you are a Red Bulls fan, I'm not taking away anything from your team's performance. You guys finished your chances well, but I do think the referees had a big hand in cutting down our momentum. We had 2 goals. We had gotten past the high press from New York. We had done well to really start putting them to the sword, really, and just breaking through the high press, countering on them. And the referee takes away our second goal and then gives them a crap goal on top of that. That just cuts away our momentum, and now it's back in what it was at the beginning of the game, where New York is pressing high and causing us issues. That's frustrating. Especially from a fan side, that is frustrating, but mainly from an entertainment side. When you want to have a game that is well officiated, well played, you've got to have guys that are not going to be there to change the game. They're going to be there to officiate, to make sure things don't get out of hand. In my opinion, the only thing that they did well tonight, Garza's red card, was deserved. That's the only decision that I thought was actually a good decision. The rest of them were all game-changing decisions that were terrible, based on their emotions, based on their opinions, and that's not how it should be. So, with all that being said, it's kind of hard to talk about our performance because there was a lot that had to do with those calls. I mean, the momentum shifted, the mentality shifted. I will say the 2 players that, in my opinion, just sort of stayed true because it's who they are. were Michael and Jeff. Both of them very solid players. Both of them very good, very headstrong, and so they're not going to get thrown off by bad calls from a referee. So they're the two that really did well for the majority of the game. There were a couple others that had some good moments after all of that happened, but a majority of them after the first few calls went against us, like the bad calls, majority of them did sort of turn off for a large part of the game. So first talk about Brad in goal. Just first half did well, dealt with everything very well. Second half, though, you could see his frustration was getting to him, and he was doing a lot of stupid stuff, balls kicked out of bounds, bad passes. I don't know, I felt like he should have been more of the calm head to calm everybody else down, but instead he felt like he was getting involved and he was getting frustrated. It just felt like he kind of added to the fire that was already going on out there. So I was kind of disappointed with that, but as far as his performance in the first half, it was good. Defense, like I said, Michael, the one that stayed consistent throughout most of the game, just looked as composed as he always does, even after all of that went against us. So it's unfortunate that he's not more of an outspoken leader, because honestly we need that outspoken leader that's going to calm everybody else down. He's kind of more of a quiet leader. He leads by example instead of really trying to shut everybody up. And that's where we get to Perez, who is, this season has really shown from the beginning of it to a few games here and there throughout most of the season. He's very, very mentally, he's very out there. He is very aggressive and fiery, and things start going against him. You can see that frustration plainly. And sure enough, it really started to show after the call started going against us. Some stupid challenges. He, honestly, probably the only decision that went in our favor that I thought was a bad call was whenever the guy was breaking through. Perez somehow loses, I don't even know what was going on. Like, the ball gets passed in behind Michael, and the guy is about 3 or 4 yards behind Perez, and he's kind of jogging, and then this guy just sprints past him and just easily outpaces him. I'm like, you're there for your pace. What the heck was that? But he brings him down right outside the box. I thought that could have been a red card, because it was pretty much one-on-one with the keeper. So that was probably the only decision that went for us that I thought was a bad decision, but compared to all the other bad decisions that went against us, it didn't really equal out. But yeah, those moments are when I see Perez for the moron that he is. Not saying he's stupid or anything, but when it comes to the mental side of soccer, he's pretty stupid. He does a lot of stupid things, and that's where it's hard to coach a player like that, because he's always going to be that way. There are certain players professionals, it doesn't matter how much you try to coach them. Diego Costa, another good example. It doesn't matter how much you try to coach them against that. Mentally, that's just how they are. They're always going to react to those situations. They're always going to get up and complain whenever things don't go their way. And I hate that we have a player like that in defense, because it hurts us sometimes. Miles, on the other side, didn't play that poorly. The penalty, I still think he was unlucky just because Wright-Phillips throws himself to the ground. But overall, I thought he did okay. He's still not really helping us as much as he can. There are a couple times where he sort of turns off and has to last second defend, which we don't want to see. But overall, I thought he was solid enough to where we can trust him, but we got to make sure that we have that back three. I wouldn't trust him in a back two. I think he needs somebody behind him like Michael to cover for him. But I do think that he's good enough to play in this back three, and that's good to see. Greg on the left side helped us a few times in the first half, provided the width, provided the switch for us, which is good. But talk about that red card, that was stupid. And you could see, first of all, the decision to dribble in field like he did when he had other options, when he could have passed it, that was already a sign that he had lost it, because it was an aggressive, driving dribble. You could tell he was frustrated, and then as soon as the ball got away from him and he lunged, I knew it. If he got the guy, I knew it would be a red. If he didn't, I knew it would be a yellow. The fact that he got him is unlucky, but it was a stupid decision on his part and fully deserved on a red card. And it's frustrating because now we don't have him, and there's a chance Chris McCann might not be back. Mikey Ambrose obviously is the next best option, but in my opinion, the left wingback role doesn't suit him. He's more of a fullback than he is a wingback. So that's frustrating that he made such a selfish decision, and now it's cost us. Hopefully not for that many games, but there's a good chance based on the aggression of the challenge that he could be gone for 3 games. Gressel on the right side, back to what I saw from last season, the dumped balls that lose it every time. Dumped it upfield, gives it away, gives it away. It's what I didn't like about him last season. And it's frustrating because this season he's stepped it up. He's done well in that position. But then when you put somebody out there who's going to outpace him and outstrength him, that's a new word I'm making up, he's not effective. He doesn't provide anything. And that left back, whoever he is, I don't remember his name, but he just tore him up all night. And while we were able to make a lot of good plays through the middle at the end of the first half, which is how we got our goal, how we started to put pressure on them, we didn't have the wings at all tonight because, Garza had a few moments, but overall he wasn't really fast enough to provide anything, and Gressel was just not involved. Anytime he got the ball, you could see he didn't know what to do with it. He was just dumping it in like usual. I don't know what was going on with him tonight, but it's back to what we saw last year. And we don't need that. We don't need him out there if he's just going to do that. So I'm really frustrated with both of our wingbacks tonight, obviously. Darlington and Jeff in the middle, both of them played pretty well. Like I said, Jeff was one of the ones that kind of kept his head. Darlington, for the most part, did. He didn't make a lot of really stupid decisions, but you could see that his options were a lot more limited tonight than they have been. And, that's mainly because of the high press. Most of the time he has the ability to take a touch and get turned or lay it off. There was a lot more pressure on him in the midfield, so it was more difficult for him to play his style of play. His play style, whatever. So that was the big frustration there. Jeff, for the most part, really held down the midfield for the first part of the first half. And it's just frustrating when you've got 2 good midfielders like that, but you can't really utilize them as much as you want to. And that was where a lot of the frustration in the first part of the game came from, was just the lack of being able to play through the midfield. And like I said, that's down to how New York plays. And they did play their game very well for the first part. But once we started sort of going past them, looking over the midfield towards our front players and finding their feet, that's where our play really started to thrive in the first half. And if not for the fact that our momentum got shut down, that's where a lot of our play was coming from. And going on to that, the front 3, Ezekiel, Joseph, and Miguel, all 3 of them had a good first half. Not at the beginning, but as the half wore on, as we started to get past the high press and started to get the ball to them, they started to shine. It really started to show that this is how we're going to do it. And unfortunately, the momentum got cut short, and then all of a sudden we started playing stupid. We started, dumping balls forward, hoping for the best instead of finding feet. And that's where things really started going apart for us. But with that being said, Ezekiel, in my opinion, showed once again why we need him, but also why sometimes we need him to not be so selfish. Because there are moments when he's on the ball and he does a quick turn that you're just like, yes, this is what we need out there. And then there are moments whenever he does that quick turn and then dribbles and then dribbles and then dribbles and then dribbles and then loses the ball. He has both of those moments going on. He has some good moments and has some bad moments. I feel like because he's younger, obviously that's a good excuse. He has the chance to grow. He has the chance to get better. But right now we need him to find out when to release the ball. Because honestly, he's causing a lot of problems for the defense, but then you hold on to the ball too long, and now all of a sudden you're not a problem for the defense, because now they've managed to shut down everybody, they've managed to keep everyone quiet and marked, and now we've got no options, and now you've lost the ball, and now they're back at us. So just looking at that, there are some good parts to his game. There are a lot of good moments where he does something clever, but he's got to release it sooner. He's got to get rid of the ball faster. Miguel, once again, things get frustrating, things get hard, and he starts trying to take everything on his shoulders, trying to take on 5 guys. He's got to stop doing that. He's a great player, but when you start being selfish, when you start trying to do everything on your own, that's when we start losing games. And it's been a big notice for me over the past 2 seasons. When he is in that mood where he feels like he's going to take everyone on his own because he doesn't want to release it, those are the games where we really struggle because he's our creative player. And when your creative player doesn't want to create, when he just wants to try to take it on his own, you're not as effective. So really frustrated that both of them got a little bit selfish tonight as the game wore on. And part of that was down to the frustration of the game as a whole. But still, you've got to grow a little bit. You've got to grow from last season, mainly Miguel. Obviously, Ezekiel wasn't here. But you've got to grow out of that, and you've got to realize, okay, we've got to step it up, and we've got to learn from our mistakes. Joseph, honestly, for the first time this season, I was frustrated for him instead of with him because he wasn't really that effective tonight except for a couple moments in the first half, but a lot of that was down to the fact that he was being just bullied by the defender. And the frustrating thing about that is he's an honest or an honest striker. He's not the type of striker that's just going to go down out of nothing like Bradley Wright-Phillips. He's going to hold his ground. He's going to try to be strong. And when the defender is just in your back constantly, that's difficult. I can't remember how many times it happened tonight, but there were a lot of moments where the ball goes up the field and he is there and he's battling with the defender and there's a lot of wrestling going on. And it's like if he tries to be a little too forceful, it's a foul on him. If the defender's a little too forceful, play continues. That's frustrating. And I'm frustrated for him for the first time because this is the first match that I've really seen that where he's actually working hard but can't do anything because the referee is allowing the defense to just really just shove him around and he's not allowed to do anything. So the two big points, one was in the first half where he really gets past the guy and kind of gets dragged down by him. No call there. And the second half, he kind of like bumps into the guy, shoves him off a little bit. Right before he goes up for the header and gets called on that, even though it wasn't a foul when it happened to Gressel in the first half. But beyond that, this is it's one of those games where it's frustrating for a striker because the referee's hindering your performance. As far as the subs that came on, you bring on Kevin in the midfield for Jeff, mainly because he is on a yellow. And you bring on Tito for Miles to sort of change it up and give you a bit more attacking. But at that point, realistically, after the Jeff red card, it was already going downhill. The momentum had already shifted for the Red Bulls. After the Jeff red card, it really was the momentum is now in their favor, and they scored shortly after that because that's how it is. That's how soccer is. When the momentum shifts, the other team they're going to take advantage of it, and they can finish, and sure enough, they did. So when Kevin and Tito came on, wasn't really expecting a whole lot out of him. However, Tito did manage to sort of provide a bit for us. Kevin had a few moments where he did pretty well defensively and then turned provider as well. But for the most part, Tito was the one of those two that really started driving at the defense, causing problems for them. So I am glad that he's stepping it up a little bit because I do think we need him a bit more than Barco right now. Not because Barco's not playing well, but I think when it comes to the game as a whole, Tito provides just a little bit more for us because he has a little bit more pace and strength. Barco is more clever than Tito is, but sometimes when you face a team like New York, who's just a big, strong team, the cleverness doesn't really make up for the fact that physically they just outpace you. Tito is the type of player, similar to Miguel, who it's hard to outpace him. He's just that fast. So I think we need him to step back up and get back to the level of play that we saw last year because he is a very effective player when we get him going. And then the last sub that came on was Sal Zizzo, and that was just mainly to replace Greg on the left back. Defensively he does okay, but God, on the ball he's really, really bad. There was one point where we have a counterattack going and we give the ball to him and then he just passes it out of bounds trying to find Tito when Miguel was right there. Overall, it wasn't necessarily... I'm not going to judge the team on this game and be like, oh, well, this season... Like the Houston game, it was kind of... Our preseason had led to that game, so you could see that the lack of energy came a lot from the fact that we just weren't ready for that game. This one, it feels like more of a blip. The Sporting KC game really felt like, okay, we need to not change up anything anymore. I feel like the change of formation really killed us in that game. This one was a lot more, just it's a bump in the road caused by some poor calls from the officials that made us lose our mentality. It is a sign that we need to make sure we don't drop our mentality, that we get a bit more headstrong and not allow those type of bad decisions to get to us. But I do think because of those bad decisions, you can kind of look at it and say, all right, this is not a sign that we're about to drop off. Not every game is going to have a referee taking away a goal wrongly and then wrongly giving a penalty and then wrongly sending off one of our players just to wrongly bring him back on and give him a yellow. It's not always going to be like that. You're not always going to have Chris Penso and Mark Geiger refereeing your games. However, there are going to be moments when they are, and there are going to be moments when they make stupid decisions, and we've got to be prepared for that. We've got to make sure that we don't have these drop-offs where we just get frustrated, stupid, and then get sent off for dumb stuff. So, while I obviously say the referees need to improve in the MLS, our players also need to realize this is how it's going to be for now. I don't know. Maybe after this game, maybe after this season, there will be sort of an inquiry and saying, all right, the refereeing does have to improve if we want to make sure our league improves. But for right now, it's what we've got to deal with. And if you can't get that in your mindset and you got to go out and things go against you and all of a sudden you just lose your head, I mean, we're not going to do well this season. So with all that being said, those are my opinions of tonight. So let me know what you think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this game? Let me know what you talk about and discuss, all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Atlanta United reviews, and I'll see you guys next game. Peace out.